Bikers corner a man at a gas station. When they find out who he is, it's too late. In the heart of a small town, a biker gang known as the Reapers ruled with an iron fist. Their reputation for ruthlessness and intimidation had long since cemented their position as the untouchable rulers of the area. On a particularly gloomy evening, the gang gathered at a dimly lit gas station on the outskirts of town, their motorcycles lined up like a pack of snarling beasts. Inside the gas station, an elderly attendant named Jack nervously went about his duties. He had served the town for decades, a symbol of resilience and quiet dignity in the face of adversity. As he rang up a customer's purchase, the bell above the door jingled, signaling the entrance of the Reapers. The gang members swaggered in, their leather jackets adorned with menacing patches and their eyes glinting with malice. The leader, a burly man with a scarred face, approached the counter and leaned in close to Jack. Well, he sneered. Look what we have here. An old man who thinks he can stand in our way. Jack's hands trembled as he tried to maintain his composure. I don't want any trouble, he said softly. I'm just trying to do my job. The gang leader let out a harsh laugh. Your job? Your job is to do as we say, old man. And right now, we say you're going to give us everything in that cash register. As the tension mounted, Jack's thoughts drifted to his estranged son, a former elite special forces operative who had left town years ago. He wondered if his son would ever return, if he would ever have the chance to mend the wounds of the past. Little did Jack know that his son, Ethan, was already on his way back to town, driven by a desire for reconciliation and a chance to start anew. Ethan drove down the highway, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. The years had been hard on him, the weight of his experiences as a soldier bearing down on his shoulders. He had seen things, done things, that haunted him still. But now, he was determined to put that life behind him and reconnect with his father. As he approached the town limits, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. The streets were too quiet, the people too wary. He pulled into the gas station, hoping to fill up his tank and ask for directions to his father's house. Inside the gas station, the Reapers were in the midst of their reign of terror. They smashed displays, shattered bottles, and mocked Jack's age and frailty. Ethan walked in just as the gang leader grabbed Jack by the collar, lifting him off the ground. Stop! Ethan shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos like a knife. The gang members turned, their eyes widening as they took in Ethan's imposing figure. He stood tall and confident, his muscles rippling beneath his shirt. Let him go, Ethan said calmly, his gaze locked on the leader. The leader sneered. And who do you think you are? Ethan took a step forward. I'm this man's son. And I'm warning you, if you don't let him go, you'll regret it. The gang members exchanged glances, their laughter filling the air. They had no idea who they were dealing with, no idea of the skill and strength that lay beneath Ethan's calm exterior. In the days that followed, Ethan began to unravel the depth of the Reapers' corruption. He heard whispers of extortion, violence, and a town gripped by fear. He saw the scars they had left on the community, both physical and emotional. Ethan's father, Jack, was reluctant to talk about the gang at first. He had grown accustomed to living in fear, to keeping his head down and his mouth shut. But as Ethan persisted, Jack began to open up. They've been here for years, Jack said, his voice trembling. They take what they want, hurt who they want. No one dares to stand up to them. Ethan's jaw clenched. He had seen injustice before, had fought against it in far-off lands. But to see it here, in his own hometown, was a bitter pill to swallow. As Ethan walked the streets, he began to notice the small acts of kindness that still managed to shine through the darkness. A shopkeeper who slipped extra food to a struggling family, a neighbor who helped an elderly woman with her groceries. These were the true heroes, Ethan realized, the ones who kept the spirit of the town alive. One evening, as Ethan sat in a local diner, he overheard a conversation between two of the Reapers. They spoke of a shipment coming in, a large quantity of illegal weapons that would solidify their hold on the town. Ethan knew he had to act. He couldn't sit idly by while the gang tightened their grip on the community. He had to find a way to stop them, to bring them to justice. Ethan spent the next few days gathering information, piecing together the puzzle of the Reapers' operation. He tracked their movements, mapped out their hideouts, and identified their key players. As he worked, Ethan couldn't help but think of his father. Jack had always been a gentle soul, a man who believed in the power of kindness and compassion. Ethan had been different, driven by a thirst for adventure and a desire to make a difference in the world. Their paths had diverged years ago, when Ethan had enlisted in the military. He had hoped to find purpose, to serve a greater cause. But the reality of war had left him disillusioned and broken. Now, as he faced the Reapers, Ethan realized that his true purpose had always been here, in this town, with his father. He had to make things right, to heal the wounds of the past and build a better future. One evening, as Ethan sat in his father's living room, Jack finally opened up about the day the Reapers had humiliated him at the gas station. "I was so ashamed," Jack said, his voice cracking. "I couldn't defend myself, couldn't stand up to them. I felt like a failure." Ethan placed a hand on his father's shoulder. "You're not a failure, Dad. You're a good man, a man who has always put others before himself. That takes a different kind of strength, a strength that the Reapers will never understand." As the sun set over the town, Ethan knew that the time had come to confront the Reapers. He had to send a message, to show them that their reign of terror would no longer be tolerated. The night was dark and moonless as Ethan made his way through the streets of the town. He moved with purpose, his steps quiet and measured, his senses attuned to any sign of danger. He had chosen his battleground carefully, an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, far from innocent bystanders. It was here that the Reapers stored their illegal weapons, here that they planned their next moves. Ethan slipped into the warehouse through a side door, his body tensed and ready. Inside, he found a scene of organized chaos, crates of weapons stacked high, maps and plans scattered across tables, empty beer bottles littering the floor. A group of Reapers sat around a table, their voices loud and boisterous as they counted their ill-gotten gains. Ethan stepped out of the shadows, his presence immediately drawing their attention. "You have one chance," Ethan said, his voice calm and steady. "Disband the gang, turn yourselves in to the authorities, and leave this town in peace." The gang members laughed, their eyes glinting with malice. "And who do you think you are?" the leader asked, rising to his feet. "Some kind of hero?" Ethan shook his head. "No, I'm no hero. I'm just a man who knows the difference between true strength and the illusion of power." The leader sneered, reaching for his gun. But Ethan was faster, his hand closing around the gang leader's wrist in an iron grip. With a twist and a snap, the gun clattered to the floor, and the leader howled in pain. The other Reapers surged to their feet, their own weapons drawn. But Ethan was a blur of motion, his body moving with a fluid grace that belied his size. He disarmed them one by one, his strikes precise and measured, designed to incapacitate rather than kill. In a matter of minutes, the Reapers lay groaning on the floor, their weapons scattered and broken. Ethan stood over them, his breath coming in steady, even pulse. "This is your last warning," he said, his voice hard as steel. "Leave this town, and never come back." With that, Ethan turned and walked out of the warehouse, leaving the Reapers to nurse their wounds and contemplate the true meaning of strength. In the days that followed Ethan's confrontation with the Reapers, a new energy seemed to flow through the town. People walked with their heads held high, their steps a little lighter, their smiles a little brighter. Ethan watched as his father, Jack, seemed to come alive again. He laughed more easily, his eyes twinkling with a renewed sense of hope. Ethan knew that the scars of the past would take time to heal, but he could see the change taking root. One afternoon, as Ethan helped his father stock shelves at the gas station, a young woman entered the store. She was slender and pretty, with long dark hair and a tentative smile. "Excuse me," she said softly. "Are you the one who stood up to the Reapers?" Ethan nodded, his expression guarded. "I am." The woman's smile widened. "I just wanted to thank you. My brother, he got mixed up with them. He was afraid to leave, afraid of what they might do. But when he heard about what you did, it gave him the courage to walk away. He's safe now, because of you. Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. He had never sought recognition for his actions, never wanted to be seen as a hero. But to know that he had made a difference, that he had given someone the strength to reclaim their life, it meant more than he could express. "I'm glad," Ethan said simply. "I hope your brother finds peace." As the woman left the store, Jack placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "You see," he said softly. "This is what true strength looks like. Not force, not violence, but the courage to stand up for what's right, to inspire others to do the same." Ethan nodded, his heart full. For the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose, a sense of belonging. He knew that there was still work to be done, still wrongs to be righted. But with his father by his side and the support of the town behind him, he felt ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As the weeks passed, Ethan found himself drawn into the daily rhythms of the town. He helped his father at the gas station, pumped gas and changed tires for the locals. In the evenings, he would sit on the porch with Jack, sipping iced tea and watching the sun sink below the horizon. It was during one of these quiet moments that Ethan finally broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. "Dad," he said softly, "I'm sorry for leaving the way I did. For not being here when you needed me." Jack was silent for a long moment, his eyes distant. "I won't lie," he said finally. "It was hard, watching you go off to war, not knowing if you'd ever come back. But I always understood why you did it. You've always had a fire in you, a need to make a difference in the world. I could never fault you for that." Ethan felt tears prick at his eyes. "I thought I was doing the right thing," he said. "But the things I saw, the things I did, it changed me. I lost sight of who I was, of what mattered." Jack reached out and grasped Ethan's hand. "But you found your way back," he said firmly. "And that's what counts. You're here now, and we have a chance to start again. To build something better." Ethan nodded, his heart full of gratitude and love for the man beside him. "I won't let you down again," he promised. As the night deepened around them, father and son sat in comfortable silence, the bonds of family and forgiveness wrapping them in a warm embrace. Despite Ethan's warning, not all of the Reapers were willing to let go of their hold on the town. Some, like the gang leader, nursed their wounds and plotted their revenge. They saw Ethan as a threat, a challenge to their power that had to be eliminated. Ethan knew that he had to stay vigilant, had to be ready for the fight that was sure to come. He spent his days training, honing his skills and his strength. He reached out to old contacts, gathering intelligence on the Reapers' movements and plans. One evening, as Ethan walked home from the gas station, he sensed a presence behind him. He turned, his body tensed and ready, and found himself face to face with 3 of the Reapers. "You should have left town when you had the chance," one of them snarled, his hand reaching for a knife at his belt. Ethan shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere," he said calmly. "This is my home, and I'll defend it with my last breath." The Reapers lunged, their weapons flashing in the dim light of the street lamps. But Ethan was ready for them, his body moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost inhuman. He dodged and weaved, his hands and feet striking out with lightning speed. In a matter of seconds, the Reapers lay groaning on the pavement, their weapons scattered and useless. Ethan stood over them, his breath coming in steady, even pulls. "Tell your leader," he said quietly, "that this town is under my protection now. And if he wants to challenge that, he'll have to go through me." With that, Ethan turned and walked away, leaving the Reapers to limp back to their hideout, their pride as bruised as their bodies. As word of Ethan's latest confrontation with the Reapers spread through the town, a new sense of hope and determination began to take hold. People who had once lived in fear now walked with their heads held high, their steps filled with purpose. Ethan watched as the town began to come together, as neighbors reached out to help one another, as old grudges were set aside in the face of a common threat. He saw the power of unity, the strength that came from standing together against injustice. One day, as Ethan worked on a car at the gas station, a group of locals approached him. They were led by the owner of the local diner, a stout, no-nonsense woman named Martha. "We've been talking," Martha said, her hands planted firmly on her hips. "And we've decided that it's time for us to take a stand. We can't let the Reapers hold this town hostage any longer." Ethan wiped his hands on a rag, his expression thoughtful. "What did you have in mind?" he asked. Martha grinned. "We're going to hit them where it hurts," she said. "In the pocketbook. We're going to boycott any business that pays protection money to the gang, and we're going to encourage others to do the same. We'll starve them out, $1 at a time." Ethan felt a surge of pride and admiration for the people before him. They were ordinary men and women, shopkeepers and farmers and factory workers. But they had a strength and a courage that the Reapers could never match. "I'm with you," Ethan said firmly. "Whatever you need, I'll be there." As the group dispersed, Ethan felt a sense of purpose settle over him. He knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult, that there would be setbacks and challenges along the way. But he also knew that he was not alone, that he had the support and the love of an entire town behind him. And with that knowledge, he felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. The boycott began quietly at first, with a few brave souls refusing to pay the Reapers' protection money. But as word spread, more and more people began to join in, their resolve strengthened by the knowledge that they were not alone. The Reapers, of course, did not take kindly to this new development. They lashed out with violence and intimidation, smashing windows and threatening those who dared to defy them. But the town stood firm, their unity and determination only growing stronger in the face of adversity. Ethan found himself at the center of this struggle, his skills and his strength put to the test as he defended the town against the Reapers' attacks. He knew that he could not be everywhere at once, that he could not protect everyone. But he also knew that he had to try, that he had to give everything he had to keep his people safe. One night, as Ethan patrolled here is the continuation of the story. One night, as Ethan patrolled the streets of the town, he received an urgent call from his father. Jack's voice was strained, his words laced with fear. "Ethan," he said, "they're here. The Reapers, they're at the gas station. They're demanding that I pay up, or else." Ethan felt a cold fury settle over him. "I'm on my way," he said. "Stay on the line with me, Dad. I'm coming." He raced through the night, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that he could not let the Reapers hurt his father, could not let them take away the one person who meant everything to him. As he approached the gas station, Ethan saw the Reapers gathered around Jack, their postures menacing and cruel. He stepped out of the shadows, his eyes blazing with determination. "Let him go," Ethan said, his voice calm and steady. "Your fight is with me, not with him." The gang leader turned, his lips curled in a sneer. Well, he said. "Look who it is. The hero of the town, come to save the day." Ethan shook his head. "I'm no hero," he said. "I'm just a man who knows what's right and what's wrong. And what you're doing here? It's wrong." The leader laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "And what are you going to do about it?" he asked. "You think you can take us all on, all by yourself?" Ethan's eyes narrowed. "I don't have to," he said. "Because I'm not alone." As if on cue, the sound of engines filled the air. A fleet of cars and trucks pulled up to the gas station, their headlights cutting through the darkness. The people of the town emerged, their faces set with determination. Martha stepped forward, her eyes blazing. "This ends now," she said. "We won't let you terrorize us any longer." The Reapers looked around, their confidence faltering in the face of such overwhelming opposition. They had always relied on fear to maintain their power, but now they were the ones who were afraid. Slowly, they began to back away, their hands raised in surrender. The gang leader was the last to go, his eyes locked on Ethan's. "This isn't over," he snarled. "You think you've won, but you haven't seen the last of us." Ethan met his gaze unflinchingly. "We'll be ready," he said. In the aftermath of the confrontation at the gas station, the town was abuzz with a new sense of purpose. They had stood up to the Reapers and emerged victorious, and they knew that they could not go back to the way things had been before. Ethan found himself at the center of this new movement, his leadership and courage an inspiration to all those around him. He worked tirelessly to help the town rebuild, to create a new sense of community and togetherness. He spent long hours at the gas station, working alongside his father to repair the damage that the Reapers had done. They talked and laughed as they worked, the years of estrangement and hurt slowly melting away. Ethan also found himself drawing closer to Martha, the tough, no-nonsense diner owner who had become one of his closest allies. He admired her strength and her determination, the way she always seemed to know exactly what needed to be done. Together, they began to make plans for the future of the town, to dream of a place where everyone could feel safe and valued. They talked of community gardens and after-school programs, of job training and affordable housing. And through it all, Ethan felt a sense of purpose that he had never known before. He had spent so many years fighting other people's wars, but now he was fighting for something that truly mattered, for a place and a people that he loved. He knew that the road ahead would not be easy, that there would be challenges and setbacks along the way. But he also knew that he was not alone, that he had the strength and the courage of an entire town behind him. And with that knowledge, he felt ready to face whatever the future might bring. As the weeks turned into months, the town began to thrive under Ethan's leadership. The Reapers were gone, driven out by the united front of the community, and a new sense of hope and possibility filled the air. Ethan worked tirelessly to build on this momentum, to create a town that was stronger and more resilient than ever before. He helped to organize a neighborhood watch groups and community events, to foster a sense of connection and belonging among the people. He also began to train others in the skills he had learned as a soldier, teaching them how to defend themselves and their loved ones. He knew that the Reapers might return someday, and he wanted the town to be ready when they did. But even as he focused on the future, Ethan never forgot about the past. He spent long hours talking with his father, working through the pain and the regret that had kept them apart for so long. They laughed and cried together, forging a new bond that was stronger than ever before. Ethan also found himself falling deeper in love with Martha, drawn to her strength and her compassion. They talked of building a life together, of creating a family that was rooted in the town they both loved so dearly. And through it all, Ethan felt a sense of belonging that he had never known before. He had spent so many years searching for his place in the world, but now he knew that he had found it, in this small town with its big heart. He knew that there would be challenges ahead, that the road to true peace and justice was never easy. But he also knew that he was not alone, that he had the love and the support of an entire community behind him. And with that knowledge, he felt ready to face whatever the future might bring, to build a world that was kinder and more just, one small act of courage at a time. Years later, Ethan sat on the porch of the gas station, watching as the sun began to set over the hills. His father had passed away a few years earlier, but his spirit lived on in the town he had loved so dearly. Ethan was older now, his hair graying at the temples, but his eyes still sparkled with the same fire and determination that had first brought him back to his hometown. He had seen the town through so many changes and challenges, had watched as it had grown and thrived under his leadership. He thought back to those early days, when the Reapers had seemed like an insurmountable threat, when the town had been gripped by fear and despair. He remembered the moment when he had first stood up to the gang, the way his heart had pounded in his chest as he faced down their leader. But he also remembered the way the town had come together in the aftermath, the way they had stood shoulder to shoulder against injustice and oppression. He remembered the small acts of kindness and courage that had sustained them through the darkest times, the way they had learned to lean on each other when the world seemed to be falling apart. Ethan smiled to himself, his heart full of gratitude and love for the community that had become his family. He knew that there would always be challenges and struggles, that the fight for justice and equality was never truly won. But he also knew that he had found his purpose, his reason for being. He had learned that true strength came not from violence or intimidation, but from compassion and unity, from the simple act of standing up for what was right. And as the last rays of sunlight faded from the sky, Ethan knew that he would continue to fight for this town, for the people he loved so dearly. He would be their protector and their guide, their beacon of hope in a world that could be so dark and uncertain. For he knew that this was his calling, his true destiny. And he would follow it, wherever it might lead him, until his last breath.